The first ordinary session as of right of regional councillors is a heartbeat away, and political outfits are definite on their picks for council executive bureau members as the decentralization process is completed. 600 million CFA francs for internally displaced persons in 4 regions in the country. President Paul Biya reaches out to the distressed with over 550 families in the Centre region benefiting from the launch of the assistance today. Cameroon's profuse natural resources, if properly developed and managed, can propel economic developments. The cartography of natural assets and the mining prowess come up in tonight's newscasts. Good evening. Thanks for joining us. Those were the headlines of the 7:30 news.
Each of us must comply with the measures that have been taken.
The first ordinary session as of right of regional councillors voted last December 6 takes place tomorrow in a sitting that will see the election of the executive regional council members. The process, which comes to complete the decentralization procedure enshrined in the 1996 Constitution, is highly awaited. But what does the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities stipulate on the modalities of the poll? Constantine Bomb provides answers in this report.
The Regional Executive Council shall be the executive organ of the region and shall comprise of 1 president, 1 vice president, 1 commissioner for economic development, 1 commissioner for health and social development, another commissioner for educational, sport and cultural development, 2 secretaries and 1 quaestor. This executive member shall be elected during the as of right session from among the regional councillors of the region as per section 353 of the General Code of Regional and Local Authorities. Articles 2 and 3 of section 353 specify who shall be president and vice president of the Northwest and Southwest regions. They shall be native personalities elected from among members of the Regional Assembly for the duration of the term of office and to the separation of positions in the Regional Executive Council as per Section 354 shall as far as possible reflect the configuration of Regional Assembly. The voting shall be by a list system, secret ballot, and absolute majority of the Regional Assembly members present and voting. After the election, the President of the Regional Executive Council shall be the Chief Executive of the region. For the Northwest and Southwest regions, there is the Regional Assembly as well, which is the deliberative organ. It shall comprise of 2 houses, the House of Divisional Representatives and the House of Chiefs. The House of Divisional Representatives is made up of 5 committees. The House of Divisional Representatives shall be chaired by the President of the Regional Executive Council.
The holding of the ordinary session as of right will determine the councillors eligible to occupy given positions in the Regional Executive Council, the House of Divisional Representatives, or the House of Chiefs in the case of the Northwest and the Southwest regions. In the different regions, a number of clues are, however, indicative of which candidates are vying for the coveted posts. Kelly and Andy Fun reports on some of the most talked about names in some parts of the country.
For the next 5 years, the Adamawa is the one region that will be dominantly controlled by the opposition party. The NUDP of Bello Buba Maigari, Dr. Muhammadu Dewa, veterinary specialist, 60 years old, hometown Tibati, is the one name projected for the post of president of the Regional Executive Council. Names of 3 candidates come up in the North region. Elhaj Amadou Buba, former government delegate to the Garoua Urban Council. Mahonde Tobi, Director of General Affairs in the Ministry of Small and Medium-Sized Enterprises. Umaru, Director of General Affairs, Ministry of Livestock. The battle is tough in the Far North region with 6 candidates projected. Adum Garwa, former Minister of Youth Affairs, Haman Jallo, Bubakari Abdullahi, Kalbasu Daniel, Haman Jibe, Gabai Flen Ngari, member of the NUDP party. The contest is also difficult in the littoral region with 4 names on the list: Yinda, Christian Mataga, Evelyn Pondi Ngole, Rose Yvette Yaka, retired military magistrate. In the West region, the president of the Regional Executive Council.
Still on regional council elections, pre-session maneuvers are ongoing within political outfits like the Cameroon People's Democratic Movements and the National Union for Democracy and Progress, NUDP. In both camps, party bigwigs are working on having the most influential and people development-oriented tenders get the top job. Ebenezer Akanga, in this investigative report, presents the methods put forth in the selection process.
Except something spectacular happens, the president of the Regional Council of the Adamawa will come from the NUDP, while the presidents of the regional councils and regional assemblies of the 9 other regions will come from the CPDM. Reliable sources from the NUDP and CPDM say the method they will use to select candidates for the posts is that of investiture. That is, holding consultations and coming to a consensus on the candidate to be put forth. Be it within the NUDP or CPDM, intense pre-session maneuvers are going on.
For the CPDM, investing does not mean designation. Investing simply means the party recognizes, gives its blessings upon consultations and arriving at a consensus. So investiture simply means the party gives its blessing, the party gives its recognition, having done consultations and having arrived at a consensus. That is the method that the CPDM has used.
On their part, representatives of traditional rulers in the Central region have organized themselves in view of their participation in the session.
We will consult in a group of 20, choose those who will represent us and present them to the regional.
Whether the selection of candidates for the posts of regional councils and regional assemblies is done through primaries, investiture, or by designation, what the population want is people who will be up to the task.
In the year in retrospect, today we begin a series of reports on President Paul Biya's activities in the year 2020. Our first focus is on the novel coronavirus pandemic, which is affecting the globe, and the head of state's personal touch to keep the virus at bay in Cameroon. The president of the republic outlined measures which ranged from preventive action to the provision of adequate medical and logistic services to Cameroonians infected by the disease. Chief Unity Palace correspondent Ashunienti tells us more.
Cameroon is one of the rare African countries that has received the thumbs up for its management of the COVID-19 pandemic, largely reducing the scale of a social psychosis into manageable limits. Experts are unanimous that if Cameroon has emerged as a leading country in the good practices in COVID-19 management, credit goes to the proactive leadership demonstrated from the very beginning by the head of state, Paul Biya. His response to the pandemic has been appropriate and decisive. After sustained and incisive warnings to the public using digital platforms such as Facebook and Twitter, on the 19th of May 2020, the President of the Republic delivered a situational discourse that was unprecedented in form, dense and seductive in content.
My dear compatriots, the first thing I would like to tell you today is not to panic and not to believe in fake news conveyed especially by social media.
In that speech, that would, for the rest of the year, serve as a white paper or Bible on Cameroon's fight against the pandemic, the President prescribed a unity of purpose and a synergy of action.
I strongly urge all political, religious, and opinion leaders, all official associations, all traditional rulers, and all dignitaries to fully participate in the fight against COVID-19.
The cancellation of festivities marking Labor Day and the National Day are part of the measures the president took to reduce the number of Cameroonians exposed to COVID-19. With time, the wisdom of these decisions have been saluted. The President of the Republic completed the array of measures with a toast to health workers who are at the forefront of Cameroon's fight against the pandemic. The increase in their retirement age has the double tonic of boosting their morale and ensuring a healthy population. On this score, if there is one Cameroonian who stands out in helping Cameroon's effort in stemming the tide of COVID-19, that Cameroonian is without doubt President Paul Biya.
Still to come in this newscast is President Paul Biya's gifts to internally displaced persons in the country. Meantime, violence, extremism and security in the Gulf of Guinea are being checked by experts on maritime safety and security of the area. During the first meeting of the technical committee, the members sought concrete solutions and evaluated mechanisms to ameliorate security concerns. A draft memorandum of understanding is expected to be signed tomorrow between Nigeria, Equatorial Guinea, Gabon and Cameroon at the end of the session. Beatrice Lawsamba reports.
Maritime security is an emerging issue in the Gulf of Guinea, with piracy in the area said to be accounting for a greater proportion of attacks on African waters. Following the June 2013 Summit on Maritime Safety and Security in the Gulf of Guinea, a technical committee of experts on maritime security and safety was set up to look at concrete measures that could reinforce security in this common maritime space. The committee has converged on Yaoundé for its first ever meeting, grouping experts from Nigeria, Cameroon, Equatorial Guinea and Gabon, the ambassadors of these four countries in attendance.
This meeting comes after the Maritime Security and Safety Summit of Yaoundé in 2013, a summit which magnified the common will for an efficient maritime governance in the Gulf of Guinea, from Angola to Senegal.
The first visible outcome of this meeting would be a draft memorandum of understanding, a step to a partnership accord that could engage all these countries in making security and safety a priority in the oil-rich Gulf of Guinea.
Still in security, a gang of 5 notorious for kidnapping and armed robbery in the seaside town of Kribi in the South region has been nabbed. Their latest beat was the hostage taken of a French national, his wife and friend after a Gulf encounter. The gang has reconstituted the crime and others at the Central Police Station of Kribi where they are in custody. Polycarp Ate has the details.
David Okoro, a 29-year-old Nigerian, Cynthia Dua, 24, Olivier Akom Biam, 30, Clement Bome, 30, and Jasparo Apo, 18, are the suspects of the kidnap of a French national, Patrice Porte, his wife and friend, last November on their way from the Gulf Feast situated about 20 kilometers away from the resort city of Kribi. The bandits are said to have, through their late-night operations, kept many neighborhoods in the resort city of Kribi under terror for the past month. After a thorough investigation carried out by the Kribi Center Police Station, the gang was arrested with rifles, cutlasses, kitchen utensils, mattresses, and electronics in their keeping. The armed robbers haven't confessed before the police station that their banditry acts in the Ocean Division have been perpetual. They demonstrated how they kidnapped the French national, robbed and raped in many neighborhoods in the resort city of Kribi. Presently, the suspects are under detention at the Kribi Center Police Station while investigation continues.
As announced in one of our top stories, Cameroon has an abundant deposit of natural resources which range from oil to gold, cobalt and iron ore. These natural assets or raw material, if adequately exploited, can be used for economic production and sprout Cameroon's emergence vision. The Ministry of Mines, Industries and Technological Development is committed to valorizing these resources through its industrialization master plan and other reforms. Joyce Kimbi-Fuajo has a sample of the cartography of minerals in the country.
Cameroon has a huge geological potential for numerous minerals spread throughout its 10 regions. As a glimpse, the center region, we can find uranium, ethane, and rupture. In the Adamawa region, bauxite iron ore is also found. The east region also counts gold, diamond, and nickel. The northwest region is not left out. We have iron ore in Kambe and Mesaje, Adamelite and outcrop in Dob. Southwest region has huge deposit of natural gas and petrochemicals, amongst others. The South region, we can also find iron, natural gas, and bauxite. The Far North region also can find sapphire, granite, and limestone. The rare soils are found in the West region, rare as its name in the world. In the Adamawa, there is bauxite and cobalt. In the North region, gold, diamond, and iron ore. This list is far from being exhaustive, as over 300 new mineral discoveries were announced recently by the Minister of Mines in Cameroon. Despite this mineral wealth, there are only 4 ongoing mineral projects in the country. We have the Mbalam iron ore, the Nkamona nickel cobalt project, bauxite development project in Minimatap and Gaundal, Mobilong diamond mining project. In all, one can rightly say all regions of Cameroon are mineral heavens.
The creation of a structure to manage Cameroon's mining sector by presidential decree is a strong indication that government is conscious of the potential of minerals to create wealth. The National Mining Company, SONAMIN, expected to develop and promote the mining sector with the state as its sole shareholder, some experts hold, is primordial for an improved economy. Clarice Aritakang tells us more.
Underground of inestimable wealth, Cameroon's mineral potential holds the promise of jobs for the population and much needed cash for the state coffers. Industry experts hold that building on these assets is achievable if the necessary keys are in place.
The mining permit the state provides is money. You have to valorize building now what we call the subdivision mining corporation. Each subdivision has to request and obtain an exploration mining license, and the local stakeholders has to be involved.
Many decry the clandestine nature of activities, which they regret have robbed the state of thousands of billions of CFA francs.
The state has the power to gather all the gold produced in our country, and then you put it in our bank. This bank will give you its caution money, and then you will invest with return in investment. We have to build strong cooperation with big companies involved in the mining.
The changing tides in global oil prices has brought with it a race to diversify economies by plowing into sources which can do well and even better for domestic revenue mobilization. Opinions hold that mining is a perfect fit.
In health news, the coronavirus continues to affect businesses adversely, and to reverse the impact, a marketing agency known as Easy Group has published a Corona compendium on the COVID-19 response in Cameroon. The document reflects lessons learned as well as proposals and initiatives for economic recovery. This was at the 2020 Corona Forum and Awards chaired by the Minister of Mines, Industries and Technological Development, Gabriel Dodondoke. Iwane Pole attended the event for the 7:30 News. Here's his report.
The Corona Forum and Awards 2020 was organized this Monday in Yaoundé by Easy Group, an experiential marketing agency working in partnership with the Ministry of Mines, Industry and Technological Development. Easy Group is presenting to the public observations and lessons learned from the COVID-19 pandemic in a document entitled the Corona Compendium.
The compendium is a document that brings together all the lessons learned during the pandemic by different sectors on a human level and on a business level. The next generation will hear about the crisis. How do we ensure that they continue the work and they do not commit the same mistakes? That's the purpose of a document like this, which is available on our website and will be available physically in January.
The minister in charge of mines, Gabriel Dodondoke, who chaired the forum in the presence of a host of ministers and the Director General of CRTV, Charles Ndongo, lauded the efforts of Easy Group for the Economic Recovery Initiative, as the document proposes a bottom-to-top approach to help economic operators play a more active role in order to regulate their businesses.
the wearing of face masks in public places will be mandatory until further notice.
It's 7:50 p.m. and it is 4 days to Christmas, and the hustling and bustling in town are characteristic of the festive period. The end-of-year feast, unfortunately, will have to deal with the coronavirus, where physical distancing and barrier measures are required. As Cameroonians prepare to celebrate the birth of Christ and the New Year, how should they perceive COVID-19? Let's join Baldwin Sama and his guest, Dr. Fokam Joseph, for updates at the Public Health Emergency Operations Center. Hello, Baldwin.
Esther Kim, I should say this is a very sensitive period of the year when Cameroonians have to be very, very careful with the way they celebrate, because the virus can easily spread. We discussed that tonight with our guest, Dr. Joseph Fokam. He is a virologist. Good evening to you, Doctor.
Good evening, Baldwin.
What do Cameroonians need to know about this end-of-year feast and COVID-19?
Effectively, Baldwin, the end-of-year period is generally marked with several festivities, including massive church attendance, and also including massive ceremonies during in nightclubs, and also maybe during wedding celebrations and other Thanksgiving that people do organize. And what we have seen in the Western world is, with similar gatherings, now there is a massive new infection of coronavirus in Europe. And more so, there is even a new strain that was discovered this week. And this new strain is even more transmissible and more virulent than the currently known one. So imagine in a context like Cameroon, where people don't respect barrier measures, what may happen if we have a similar strain in our context. And that's why we really want to emphasize during this end-of-year festivities, please make sure you should have your mask, make sure you should have your hand sanitizer when you are going out, such that we could at least have these minimum measures respected to prevent coronavirus spread in our context, where already we are seeing a kind of resurgence already.
Thank you so much, Dr. Joseph Fokam, for all those awards. The take-home message from here is that attend all these end-of-year celebrations while respecting barrier measures against COVID-19. Back to you, Esther Kima.
Very much, Baldwin Sama. We keep talking about Christmas that has already begun in the littoral region, as food items and other basic commodities have been distributed to some 100 internally displaced persons and inmates of the Nkongsamba Central Prison. The benefactor is an association from the diaspora engaged in bringing smiles to the underprivileged and people deprived of liberty. Cynthia Etim reports on the public-spirited gesture.
The president of the Association of Children Living Together, who is also son of the soil, came with some good tidings to inmates of the Nkongsamba Principal Prison. The hands of fellowship were equally extended to some visually impaired children, orphans, and those suffering from Down syndrome and other mental disorder. Some 100 IDPs in the town were equally not left out in the act of solidarity intended to remind this group of persons that they are valued and loved during this festive season.
I want to thank for this action which is coming to enhance the effort of the government.
For us, the IDPs, we still have hopes because of people like him.
The association, dubbed Children Living Together, was founded in 2002.
We have given to people we visit some foods for the nativity. We share some moment of love.
The president of the association has, amongst other activities, built schools and awarded academic excellence to some less privileged children in Cameroon.
In one of our top stories, internally displaced persons and vulnerable groups from 4 regions in the country have begun benefiting from a presidential aid worth 600 million CFA francs. The distribution of the gifts meant to alleviate the plight of the distress was launched today in Yaoundé by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji. Beatrice Ngum reports on this other presidential goodwill gesture applauded by the beneficiaries.
Close to 2,800 IDPs from 550 families, drawn from all subdivisions of the Mfundi, plus the elderly and orphans, are beneficiaries of this presidential aid. Humanitarian assistance comprised of foodstuff, mattresses, detergents, and lots more, coming from the head of state to enable them make merry this festive period. A commendable gesture, beneficiaries say. Launching the distribution in the center, Territorial Administration Boss Paul Atanganji also distributed cartons of face masks to mayors as he called on them to champion the fight to roll back COVID-19 in the center region.
Onto this advertorial, an accord to disburse the sum of 250 billion CFA francs to small and medium-sized enterprises has been signed between Société Générale de Cameroun and the government. The agreement, signed by Finance Minister Louis-Paul Motaze, representing the state, and the Managing Director of SGC, Mbaye Ndiaye, is expected to boost activities of small-scale enterprises that have been greatly affected by the coronavirus pandemic in the country. Colette Jani has the details.
The protocol accord between the government of Cameroon and Société Générale Cameroun stipulates that SGC will improve on the sourcing of finance for some small and medium-sized enterprises in the country. The 250 billion CFA francs to be disbursed by the bank will intensify the activities of these economic operators that were affected by the novel coronavirus. Signing on behalf of the government, the Minister of Finance Louis-Paul Motaze thanked the bank officials for the timely response to the needs of economic operators in Cameroon. In response, the Director General of SGC, Mbaye Ndiaye, said the 250 billion loan with classic interest rates is part of the bank's global response to revamp the economy of Africa through its program Grow with Africa. With 650 employees and 38 branches spread across Cameroon, Société Générale Cameroun for over 50 years has placed accessibility and proximity at the heart of its commitments and daily actions to her clients.
In yet another advertorial, Cameroon's coastal history exhibited in rare documents and artifacts has been presented to the public in Douala via the Maritime Museum project. It is an initiative of the Cameroon Shippers Association and the Afrique Avenue International. The exhibition counts for the museum's 7th anniversary, as we hear in this report by Dixon Asho.
67 boards of 5 sequences to revoke a rare lane of Cameroon's coastal history, probably untold by many historians. Rare documents, artifacts, and details of the missing historic puzzle backing facts on the pre- and post-colonial period in the spheres of administration, religion, economy, conflict, treaties, and autonomy further enlighten visitors on who really the coastal people are, notably the Sawa. This is just a mile of the archive we have at the Africa Avenue International. We still have lots of these in foreign countries. With a bit of will, we can bring them and put them at the disposal of Cameroonians. A guided tour around the Maritime Museum led by this Prince of Sawa Disen reveals that much of Africa and Cameroon artifacts snatched by colonialists are still in their keeping with little or no access to them. And this makes the African and most especially Cameroon history incomplete. A forum is underway in Berlin as a follow-up to the rehabilitation of the Berlin Royal Palace that has been equipped with African artifacts. This exhibition is our own way of telling them that our artifacts have no place over there. 7 years since the conception of this historic maritime museum by the National Shippers Council and Fondation Afrique Avenue International, their aspirations remain the restoration and valorization of Cameroon's historic heritage.
Some months ago, we got also an exhibition here from the International Maritime Organization. So we think that things are going well.
The public will also have to nurse interest around this historic package, and the initiators have called on institutions concerned with culture and education to make way for historians and teachers to take stock of such a source for the proper drilling of learners and Cameroonians on who they really are.
And now in sports, the towns of Boya and Limbe in the southwest region that will host Group D teams of the African Nations Championship in January 2021 pride themselves with tourist attractions that can wow guests throughout the competition. From the Alfred Seker Monument in Limbe to the Reunification Monument in Boya, players and the different delegations can spice up their stay in the region. Baldwin Sama picks some of the attractions tonight.
Standing tall at Down Beach, Limbe, with the Alfred Seca Monument, the British missionary who landed, founded and named the town of Victoria today turns Limbe, which will attract many tourists during the African Nations Championship. Life at Down Beach, Limbe will be an important item on the agenda of the different delegations. The Limbe Botanic Garden is unique as it provides a serene environment conducive for deep meditations and reflections, a source of attraction for the different delegations. And what about the Limbe Wildlife Center? Here, there were 350 animals of different species, among them 200 primates. This center will attract different guests in Limbe during the competition.
Touristic sites in Limbe, we have them, and I think government did well to send a pool of this competition in Limbe, because Limbe has all what it takes to host guests.
In Boya, the beautiful Mount Cameroon view won't be resisted by visitors as a reunification monument, unique in its shape, telling signs of the country's unity, will attract guests and visitors.
Will be all for this edition of the 7:30 News, in which you heard that 600 million CFA francs has been distributed to internally displaced persons in 4 regions. The gift is from President Paul Biya, who is reaching out to the distressed. Over 550 families in the Center region have begun benefiting from the assistance that was launched today by the Minister of Territorial Administration, Paul Atanganji. More news comes up at 8:30 p.m. with Romeo Chwise. Our programs continue on the CRTV. I'll be back tomorrow at 7:30 p.m. God willing. Good night. Thanks for watching.
In this connection, we should avoid stigmatizing